Give me that microphone. What's going on, guys? Now, you're about to hear Tucker Carlson talk about Jeffrey Epstein. This is, again, I keep saying it, this podcast, he was touching on the war, the president, the media. Like, there was no stone left unturned. Everything that somebody who's in the mainstream media, everything that they shouldn't say, he chose to say. He chose to not only just say, but speak on in length. Like, this was just out there, really out there. And so commendable, because it's not like he doesn't know who he is. So the fact that he's willing to talk to these guys, these young guys, about this stuff is just hats off to him, man. Absolutely amazing. But before we get into it, you know where I'm going to take you. I'm going to take you to the Soul Not For Sale store. We got the hoodie, the infamous hoodie of which I'm wearing right now. And I'm about to buy a bunch more of myself, just because I need to wear these every single day of the week. And if you want to be like that too, we got the store right here. We got the shirts, we got the hoodies, we got the t-shirts, we got the women's v-neck, we got the anti-WEF stuff. And I'm about to come up with something really special. I have a really special place in my heart for the Hollywood elite. And that place is the bottom of my heart, the darkest part of it, because I don't like them. And I'm going to be coming out with something towards that group of people, because I think we should cancel Hollywood. I think that would be great. So let's get into this clip. Let's get into it. There it is. Pull it up. Jeffrey Epstein. Tucker Carlson on Jeffrey Epstein and everything that's happened with him.
It was.
One thing I want to ask you, and it's just kind of backtracking, but going off like with the Andrew Tate shit, immediately upon his arrest, everybody starts talking about, what about Jeffrey Epstein? And you've mentioned him a couple times. Why do you think like there is no more info on that? It's just been brushed under the rug. Like,
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, they don't want to expose people, but I mean, why can't we talk about it?
Oh, well,
Why are people so afraid?
it's not allowed. Look, I mean, weirdly, I know a lot of people who are in, just because of my age and just having been in the media for 30 years, I know a lot of the people who are in his orbit and who knew him really well. So I'll tell you what I know, which I just had a lunch about this on Friday. It was really interesting with one of his closest friends. Here's what we know. I think there were $600 million recovered in cash and assets in his estate. I think that's the right number. It may have been 700, hundreds of millions. And that was what, 4 years ago that he died? They do not know now, like an army of forensic accountants, where that money came from. And I said to, and my friend has direct knowledge of this. So I said to him, like, how can you not know where hundreds of millions of dollars came from? Like, they just don't know. They've had 4 years to figure it out and trace the wire transfer. No idea.
600 million?
Yes. And that's of the recovered assets. So that's the value of his real estate and his cash and his equities or whatever. There is a belief, and my friend shares it, that there's at least as much that will never be recovered, that it's just hidden. So I'm a very conventional person. I work for a salary. I don't know that much about money. I was like, how can that even be? He's like, no, that's totally possible. Well, we know it's possible because it happened. So we don't know where he made his money. He was not running a hedge fund. That's not true. He executed like no trades. He was not a finance guy. So where'd all that money come from? Unknown. The second thing we know for a fact is that he was killed in federal custody. He was murdered. That's true. And if you look into it, as I did, I spent a week looking into it because his brother Mark reached out to me. And again, I know nothing else. Like, I don't know what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. I don't know. I've never seen any tapes. Like, I don't know anything. So the two things I know are, we don't know where the money came from. We don't know what he did for a living. And we know that he was murdered. He was murdered in the special housing unit of federal lockup in Manhattan.
How do we know he was murdered?
Oh, well, look into it, dude. We did a whole segment on it on my show. Nobody cared.
I'm going to watch it after.
You should. It's beyond belief. And I'm very skeptical of any kind of conspiracy theory or whatever.
Why don't more people go after this, though?
We know that he was murdered because, well, for one thing, a friend of mine's one of the people who last talked to him on the phone the day he was killed. And he had a expectation of a bail hearing in 2 days. He thought he was getting out. He was not despondent at all. I talked to his lawyer, told me the same thing. They moved someone out of his cell. They put two people, one of whom was not even a full-time prison guard, on duty. None of the cameras trained on the cell worked. They were all out of it that night. They locked the front of the special housing unit that had 8 cells in it, but then they opened all the cells inside. So who was it? So I asked a really simple question to the Bureau of Prisons. who were the other? So there are 8 cells, 16 minus his cell because he was alone. So that means there are 14 other inmates there that night. What are their names? Where'd they go? Some of them were transferred out right after. Who were these people? Can't tell you that. Really? You can't tell me that? On the basis of what? Because some inmate at a federal prison's privacy concerns, like Trump telling, what are you even talking about? Meanwhile, the Attorney General of the United States under Trump, Bill Barr, issues a statement being like, no, we know it's totally. Bill Barr lied. There's no question that Bill Barr, well, he clearly suspected Epstein was murdered, but stopped the investigation into it. I went and read Bill Barr's book in which he explains all this, and it's like complete bullshit and transparent bullshit. So I have no idea why the Attorney General of the United States would be lying about this, but there's literally no question that he did. I know him. So Bill Barr's super nice guy. We reach out to Bill Barr like, hey, why don't you come on and explain why you lied about Jeffrey Epstein's death? No. So I don't want to overstate what I know. I'm just telling you what I do know.
Mm-hmm.
He was killed.
Yeah.
By whom? No idea.
This is crazy. This is not, this is not the mainstream narrative. He's going completely against it. He's just sitting back and telling them exactly what he knows, breaking down that whole thing. I knew that he was killed in, a prison, obviously, but I didn't know that people were transferred out the very next day after he died, and that those names aren't being released, like trying to protect those prisoners. The only time something like that happens is if you're not just trying to protect the prisoner, but you're trying to protect whoever the prisoner is connected to. Because then you find out, like, who did he see? Then you find out, was his family wiretapped any money? Then you start making connections. All of that's being stopped. Like, this is, like, I don't know about you, maybe you've looked into the case more so, but in terms of just hearing the news, this was not the news when Jeffrey Epstein died. This was not the news at all. And the fact that Tucker's just talking about it all willy-nilly like this is, again, incredible, man. Hats off to this guy. He's amazing.
Yeah, we could guess. But as my friend said, I said to my friend on Friday, actually, who do you think killed Epstein? And he goes, the list of people who wanted to kill Epstein was so long. Like, it could be anybody.
Wow.
But whoever did it, here's the one thing I'll say. Whoever did it was able to do it in the most secure lockdown in the United States of America and then get away with it. So I was interviewing all these people, like, will you come on the show and talk about it? No. Why? And one of them said to me, whoever killed Epstein clearly has a lot of power. I mean, like, if I said to you, I want you to kill this guy in the special housing unit, federal lockup in Manhattan.
You got to have some pull.
You'd be like, I'd love to kill him, but, like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Right? It'd be pretty hard to pull that off. Well, someone pulled it off. So that tells you a lot about that, whoever that group of people was. They're no one to fuck with.
That's crazy. What do you think? What's one of your favorite topics you've ever covered, or something that you just got so obsessed with?
Well, UFOs.
Wow. That was just like, and again, it's so true. I mean, we all know that the list of people, said to be on the flight log and everything, we all know it was super powerful people. We all know Bill Gates was involved in flights, and we're learning now Noam Chomsky, and we're learning a bunch of people have Woody Allen. We're learning it's a very colorful list of people, all which would have access to millions of dollars. Every single one, billions even. So I don't think we'll ever find out, but that just him going on that rant about Jeffrey Epstein. Again, this is him on a podcast with a couple of 28-year-old guys. Then he goes back to Fox News Media Studios, wherever, and sits down. Like, to think that he didn't get any calls or that somebody didn't say, hey, heard what you said, is incredible. And the fact that he's also revealing that he tried to interview a bunch of people about it, and they were all like, no, I'm not going to come and talk about it. It's just such a revealing thing. And this whole podcast with him has been revealing. And again, I will ask you, what do you think? You think it's just coincidence? Maybe just Dominion, got him fired? I'm way beyond, like, before I brought up the whole thing of BlackRock, how BlackRock is potentially, because BlackRock doesn't own Dominion, but owns certain pharmaceutical companies. Tucker took a swipe at the pharmaceutical companies. I think it's all those things. I think he took a swipe at the pharmaceutical companies. He came on this podcast and spoke his mind completely. Like, I think it's just a bunch of these things all at once where he's like, this is almost like, think about everything he's saying. This is more truth than what Andrew Tate was saying. And we all know what happened with Andrew Tate. He was saying more than Andrew Tate. In reality, Andrew Tate was more salacious. He was maybe more vulgar. But everything that Tucker's saying on this podcast reveals way more about the world than anything Andrew Tate had to say. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. You know I'll be there in the comments. Let me know what you think's going on. Whew. And what do you think about Epstein? I think he was straight up murdered. I think if I had $10 billion and I wanted to have something happen to somebody, I would be 100 spaces removed from it. And I would go to somebody and I'd say, here's $10 billion or here's $1 billion. I need this to happen. I need it not to connect to me at all. And I want you to make it happen. And I don't want you to tell me about it at all. That's it. And I would just walk away and, I would just go and handle some things, Microsoft stuff, maybe. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I would just go handle some stuff. Whatever I was into, whatever. I'm not saying anything. Other than that, I'm out.